Hi everyone, it's me, Carrie. So when I was a kid, I was a huge fan of the comic strip Garfield by Jim Davis. I'm sure you've heard of it. And I remember every few weeks I would go to the local library and rent out the next Garfield comic book. For proof, I still have 3 of them here, and I don't know if I stole these from the library or if I paid for them. I'm sure I paid for them. This is all legal. But you can see this is Jim Davis's 41st Garfield comic book called Garfield Older and Wider, Garfield Blots Out the Sun, his 43rd book, and Garfield Large and in Charge, his 45th book. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to show you the inside. Oh, whatever. But you can see it's just a compilation of these typical newspaper comics, all packaged together in one nicely made book. So it's not like original content, it's just the newspaper stuff. But you can see that he's done at least 45 of these books, so I had a lot of content to go through at the library. Also, for more proof that I was a big Garfield fan, in 5th grade, our teachers gave us this assignment where we had to write a letter to a role model we looked up to, and I wrote to Jim Davis, and I wasn't expecting a response. Like they warned us that there was a big chance that they would never respond, but I still have his letter that he sent back to me. Oh my god, what is this science fair thing? It's already coming off. I have his letter with an autograph. Oh my god, a pin fell off. There's Jim Davis's autograph that he mailed back to me, and there's this message saying, "Thank you for reading Garfield." So that's really cool of him. Okay, that's cool, but what's been happening recently? Well, earlier today, in 2021, I was watching videos by this YouTuber called Quentin Reviews, who makes these really long, interesting video essays analyzing some part of pop culture. Like I know one time he made this 4-hour video essay dissecting iCarly, which is just insane. So when I saw he was making videos about Garfield, that really piqued my interest, because, you know, as a kid I consumed so much content of this bad boy. Anyway, the premise of this video, called Finding Garfield Lost Media, is that Jim Davis, before Garfield blew up, worked on a lot of older projects in the 1970s that are very obscure. Not many people know about them, including this one called Gnome Nat from the early 70s.
Comics available online at this point, they were all extremely
See, Gnome Nat.
and one of them wasn't even in English for some reason. And since
Yeah, so hearing him talking about that is really fascinating to me, because I've sort of known Jim Davis as an artist, not personally, but just like I know of him for like 15 years, and I never knew of this other part of his history. So Quentin got in contact with the newspaper company where Jim Davis started his career in Indiana, and they were able to send him photo scans of newspapers from the 70s showing some other stuff from Jim Davis's old work. We all know that canonically, in like the character Garfield and the comic strip Garfield, they were both born on June 19th, 1978. That's just common knowledge. We know 1978 is his birth year. But from the newspaper, they were able to send this, which is called John, and it's a comic strip that came from January 1976, 2.5 years earlier. And what you'll notice is that this follows almost exactly the same format as old Garfield comic strips. Like this cat character here is essentially just Garfield, but just looks different, and then there's John, his owner. This is a huge mind blow to everyone who knows about Garfield, because it completely changes the story arc of, okay, maybe it doesn't completely change, but it kind of changes the way you think of Garfield as a character, because that means he's not 43 right now, he's 45 years old, and he wasn't born with stripes. At one point, he didn't have stripes. So, you know, this is quite crazy, a lot to process at once, and you can hear Quentin talk about his feelings about it here.
even as a fan who is used to his early evolution, I was shocked that this was his original look.
Yeah, I was shocked
no
too.
Stripes,
Like,
no detail.
I mean, you and I, like, we both know that Garfield is supposed to be orange with black stripes, but here there's no stripes.
Those big cheeks, barely a mouth at first, freckles around his face, a weird mark on his tail. It's just weird.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I feel like Garfield is such a familiar character, so to see him drawn in such an unfamiliar way is very unsettling. But Quentin also says here,
My second thought was, why has this taken so long to come out?
yeah, and I think that's like interesting too, because, you know, any fan base as big as Garfield's, like, if something is out there. Like, you would expect it to already be found by now. But what I wanted to point out, and this is the whole reason I'm making this video, is because as I was watching this video, and I saw Garfield without the stripes and like just pure white with the huge saggy cheeks, for some reason it wasn't as unsettling to me as I thought it should be. Part of me felt like I've already seen this. Like, this is just, I already know this. It feels expected. And so I looked on my bookshelf, and I remember I had this book called Garfield at 25. In dog years, I'd be dead. As the back cover says, it's essentially a compilation of comic strips, photographs of historic Garfield events, photographs of merchandise, quizzes, interviews, articles, and much more, everything Garfield related. And I used to like read this book like every day. I would just open it and go to a different page. And you can see I've had it forever. We got it in July 2004. That was before YouTube even existed. So Garfield turned 25 canonically in 2003. So this book came out the next year. And Michael and I were only 7 years old, so we were really kids, just obsessed about this comic strip. This book titled Garfield at 25 in Dog Years I'd Be Dead is like super familiar now because of all the times I've picked it up. But if you go to page 16, I don't know if I'm allowed to show you this either, but whatever. I'll like keep it low quality. But anyway, this section is called The Birth of, what is it? Birth of Fat Furry Legend. And there it is. There's the original Garfield sketch with the, you know, no stripes and the big saggy cheek. The source of that is the same as the source of this, I believe. And, you know, here's a few strips of Gnome Nat. And I don't know, maybe this is already public knowledge because this, you know, this book was in publication. So I'm sure the diehard Garfield fans who are compiling everything on the Garfield wiki already know about this. So maybe I'm just repeating what other people have said, but like, yeah, I know, I remember like looking through this and seeing the 6 poses and I'm like, that's not Garfield, as like a 7-year-old kid, and then later he gets stripes. So I still think it's true that when Quentin pulls up these comic strips, these exact strips, like the 55 or so that he shows, those have never been seen before by the public. But the fact that Garfield once had no stripes in sort of a prototypical version, which is mentioned here, that was already publicly known, I suppose. The book never states that Jim Davis used to write for just one newspaper in Indiana. It just says that these are sketchbook drawings submitted to the syndicate as part of the development process. But either way, Quentin, if you're watching this, I really liked that video. And I'm not part of the Garfield fandom anymore. I think, you know, once I reached middle school, I kind of moved on. Maybe you could say that Garfield has some influences on BFDI. I mean, the debatable main character of both are orange blobs with some black markings on them and a later part in the middle of the face. So visually, they look kind of similar, I guess. But still, I just think it's really cool because very rarely do I have like actual fan merchandise of some franchise that I feel like can contribute something. And here it is, the second spread, and here's the first spread. Woohoo! Okay, I hope I'm not breaking any laws.